Well, thanks for that. And as part of our budget, too, we have the law enforcement recruiting bonus yet again. So people that come to Florida or young people that just decide to go into law enforcement for the first time, even within Florida, they get a $5,000 signing bonus right off the top. So if you're in Seattle or Chicago not being treated well, you come here, you're going to get treated much better. I think the community is good. And, I'll tell you, it was to see some of these Hamas people try to take over a street down here. That did not last very long. They got escorted out, which they could. And it is quite a contrast to what we saw yesterday in our nation's capital. How you would allow Hamas people to deface statues and buildings, to take down the American flag off a train station and to burn the flag and then put a Hamas flag up, that was a complete disgrace. Why aren't those people being arrested and prosecuted? I know they did that in other situations, but they don't want to do it in this one. That conduct should not be tolerated. You do not have a right to write Death to America on a public statue with spray paint. You don't have a right to scribble Hamas on public buildings. You don't have a right to take on a public flagpole our American flag down and desecrate it and then put up a Hamas flag. So that would not have flown. That would not have been able to go in Florida. We would have stopped that. I have no doubt every jurisdiction in this state would not have allowed that to happen. Those folks need to be held accountable for what they're doing, but we also need to look as a country and recognize what we've seen since October 7th has been an outburst of anti-Semitism like we have not seen, certainly in my adult lifetime. And no one has done more than the state of Florida to combat anti-Semitism. If you look, since I became governor, first year as governor, we did the anti-Semitism bill for the universities to make sure we weren't becoming BDS factories. If you look at what we've done to give money for security for Jewish day schools, we've been doing that long before October 7th. On and on and on, we've stepped up and done what was right. And so this is an issue that we've taken seriously. But even with all that we had done leading up to October 7th, even with our recognition with the legislature and my office that anti-Semitism was a big problem, I did not think it is as bad or would be able to be so open like it has been since October 7th. So when I see these people protesting, rioting, defacing property, talking about death to America, talking about Hamas, spewing anti-Semitism, if you're on a visa, it should be revoked and you should be sent home. We should not be importing people into this country that hate our country, that have that kind of toxic ideology. It's just disgraceful and it's unacceptable. And I also think you have the leader of one of our strongest allies for my whole lifetime speaking in front of Congress, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and yet Kamala can't go there and greet him. How do you treat it's not a way to treat an ally. She had no interest. She has not condemned what happened at Union Station, the graffiti and the rioting and all the vile activity. That was something that she had nothing to say about. So this is serious stuff, and we've got to get smart, and we should not be politically correct about any of this stuff. You know, there are a lot of folks that really mean this country bad, and you've seen them come out in full force since October 7th, and they feel that they're bulletproof because nothing ever happens when they engage in this type of conduct. You will be held accountable in the state of Florida. You're not taking over our streets. You're not defacing our buildings. And you are not going to take over our public universities. And if you try, go ahead. Make my day. All right, question.
Chris Nelson, I want to ask a local issue. I know after the Surfside tragedy, a law was passed to make sure that that never happens again. But what's happened is there are now more stringent guidelines for milestone inspections, fully funded reserves. So a lot of people are now facing massive special assessments in their condos. So I'm wondering, would you be willing to call a special session to the legislature to perhaps modify this law so it can be done more incrementally?
So if the legislature has ideas about how to make this more sensible for people, I'm totally open to all that. You know, when Surfside happened, I mean, first of all, it was this massive tragedy. And, like, literally within, like, 24 hours, the media is like, well, don't you need to do this law? And I'm like, we don't even know what happened yet. Just give us some time. And so the legislature did this, and, you know, they did hearings and stuff. And I was like, okay, fine. But there was always the possibility that there could be some unintended consequences. And so I think they owe it to their constituents to listen to them, to figure out what, I mean, we obviously want everyone to be safe. But I also think just people naturally are more attuned to safety as a result of Surfside, even without having any additional regulatory. But if the legislators talk to their folks and have some proposals to provide some reforms that would alleviate some of that burden, I think that would be a welcome thing. But that's going to have to be something that they're developing.